All right, Oda, it was funny last chapter, but bro, you really gotta relax, all right? I don't like to see my boy Luffy get done like this. He's really looking crazy out here. And I was asking myself, what has Luffy done to deserve this level of beatdown? But then I thought about it from Emu's perspective, and he may not have done enough so far. But this is necessary. If Luffy is going to surpass Joy Boy, he has to know what that looks like. And while that may not be his personal task, it's something that's going to need to happen for him to find the One Piece and achieve his own dream. Emu is a monster, and this younger version of Shanks really looks at him to have this almost incomprehensible level of strength. And he's trying to warn Loki about it. He almost can't put it into words. I do want to give Oda some props because this is one of the most interesting and unique fighting styles I've seen from a big boss in the anime. It's almost like Gilgamesh, where he has access to this really big pool of weapons, but all of them have a really specific lore tie-in, and it being related to the 20 Kings makes it a lot more interesting. So let's go ahead and get into it. This chapter was loaded, and usually I try to pick one thing to talk about from the chapter for my videos because I think that the review market is a little saturated. But with this one, I just couldn't pick one thing. I gotta talk about multiple things. My favorite characters show up in this. The ending is explosive to me as a Sanji fan, and I just gotta talk about all of it, bro. So without any further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get into it. But first, please leave a like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and we are definitely growing a lot. I know a lot of people get annoyed when YouTubers ask for that, but we do it for a reason, all right? It's not just random. But anyway, let's go ahead and get to it. So at face value, it may not seem like a lot, but there are a bunch of implications that you can take from this chapter and start drawing a lot of different conclusions with theories that have been around for a long time and characters as well. I look back at the founding of the world government and the 20 Kings coming together, and I think that we can go two different routes with them and the act of them leaving their weapons there in front of the empty throne. That first route is a scenario where they were unknowingly participating in some kind of demonic ritual that gave this power to Emu. This one is a lot more interesting to me because when you really think about it, the idea of the world government doesn't sound bad. It's more so the execution. These countries are banding together to ensure that there is no one supreme ruler of the world. That doesn't sound crazy to me. The problem is that it was probably created as an antithesis to the ancient kingdom, which from our perspective isn't this big bad evil being. So obviously there was some type of trickery and some people were misled to make these decisions. And if they were able to make it far enough to be tricked into doing a whole demonic ritual, that explains also why Lily could have peeped it out at the very end, would have been like, yo, what you guys are doing is actually really bad, but it was a little bit too late. On the other hand, you have them willingly making these decisions. And I just don't see that personally happen because I don't know if you could find 20 nations evil enough to want to rule the world in the way that Emu has been ruling the world. I wouldn't rule it out, but I would also like to assume that there is some type of trickery on this route as well, but they knew what they were doing to an extent where they were going against the ancient kingdom for a very specific reason, whether that was power, influence, land, resources in general. In reality, I can see a scenario where all 20 kings weren't on the same page. Some of them could have been oblivious to what was going on. Obviously, that's what was going on with Lily before she probably turned coat at the last second, while other ones could have been knowing and wicked. It could have been the Gorsei's family, right? And you know, we as readers were a little bit annoyed with Vegapunk showing some confusions at the motivations and the war that happened, but even us now can't really come to a fair conclusion of how things went down. Obviously, we don't have the information, but Vegapunk doesn't either. He has broken bits of information from both sides that has been trickled down, and they're having to draw their own conclusions. So him having some type of confusion there makes a lot of sense. The only problem is one side is trying to murder you for finding out what happened. Maybe those are the good guys. But I can also see a scenario where Davy Jones was the king of the ancient kingdom and he was doing some crazy stuff, but Joy Boy was kind of usurping him, or he was the one that people wanted to be the king. So that side was actually good, but they had a bad leader. It's just so many different routes we can go. And everything we've seen from Emu has only made it much more potentially interesting than it would have already been. But let's talk about the weapons, bro. The weapons are really, really cool. And I can't wait to see what bag Oda jumps in when he pulls some of the real life inspiration from these weapons. We have the Muramasa blade, which is named after a real life Japanese swordsmith who will probably have some type of Wano ties in the One Piece world. And I can imagine that maybe being Venus Juro's family if he truly does have ties to what Wano once was. On top of that, we also have the spear that stabbed Jesus Christ, which is kind of crazy. That's what Killingham is using. In our real world, that's the lore around it. I don't think that'll be the lore in One Piece, but it's definitely going to have some type of legendary application as well. People having access to these weapons weapons is really world breaking because they're legendary blades and they all have these really cool powers, but I really want Oda to explore the source of these powers. Is this simply them being fed a devil fruit power back in the day and them still having that power because the swords aren't people, they can't die and go back into reincarnation and get into the cycle? Or could this have been some type of ancient technology that predated devil fruits and was the primary way that people used to fight before devil fruits became like a really big power source in the One Piece world? To me, I think that's the more preferable route because like I said, I don't like the idea of devil fruits being locked out of reincarnation and nobody having access to them for what, 800 plus years at this point. And I don't think Oda would lock these powers out either. I can't wait to see what these different families, like the Figurlin family, what was their original weapon, and a scenario where Shanks gets his hand on that blade could be really cool. But that also depends on my next question, which is, do the Gorosei have access to their original family weapons? So something has to draw the line between the difference of the Holy Knights and the Gorosei. Obviously, the Gorosei are probably much stronger and they earn those positions because of their merit. But there is also, do they have constant access to the Omen Flames maybe? Or do they have constant access to their family blade? Then they have to have a really specific thing that puts them on a different tier from the Holy Knights outside of just their normal base strength, and this would be a really cool way to explore that. Now I'm gonna round this video out talking about Shanks and Gaban, who really deserve their own video, and I'm gonna try my best to do that, especially since we got a break week coming up. So we're doing some exposition on Haki because no matter what we see from Emu and the Holy Knights, at the end of the day, Haki has been shown to be the #1 thing that counters them. And who better to give us more information on Haki and its origins and why it's so powerful to combat the Holy Knight's powers and Emu himself than the person that was the left hand of the Pirate King, who in my opinion would have Haki that only pales in comparison to Joy Boy. And this could be the end of Gaban. Gaban knows the secrets of the world. He made it to Lab Tail with Roger. He knows so much, and Emu will undoubtedly want him dead. So I have no doubt that when he dies, or if he dies, he's gonna give us a really big lore drop about Roger, because we still don't know anything about Roger. Like, compared to a bunch of our other legendary characters, Roger is a huge mystery. And he can also give us some Ancient Kingdom stuff. I hope he tells us the name. I hope he tells us the name of the kingdom. That's one thing I've been looking for a really long time. What was the name of this nation? There is no higher praise in this story than to go down fighting Emu. We've seen Loki and Luffy fight Emu, and they really weren't able to do much of anything. A lot of people are saying that Loki did better against Emu. Yeah, he's bigger and more durable, but if we just talk about hits landed, bro, they really haven't done anything, and Emu was really distracted while he was fighting Loki. I feel like when he saw Luffy in front of him, he really locked in, like, oh, you supposed to be Joy Boy, boy, I'm finna beat your ass. If Gaban can give us a good showing against Emu, do you know what that means for Rayleigh and Roger? If we can see the third strongest guy fight the king of the world, obviously he's not gonna win, but if he can just look really good against him, forget Roger and Rayleigh. Do you know how crazy that is for Sanji? We're getting a glimpse at Sanji's floor and of ceiling. At the very least, he's going to be equal to Gaban, but I personally believe, and I'm sure most people do, he's gonna be stronger than him. So we're gonna look at the floor of Sanji. And I don't think Gaban is gonna be out here matching Emu and fight him equally, but I just need a good showing. That's all I need. And I think undoubtedly that's what we're gonna get, because at the end of the day, he's an old man, bro. This ain't prime Gaban. You feel me? Shanks, on the other hand, just had a really I'm not gonna say character changing moment, but a character clarifying moment, if you will. For the longest, I think the community has thought of Shanks to be someone that's just trying to keep the balance of the world until Joy Boy arrives and we're able to take out Emu. And this doesn't necessarily refute that, but I think it adds another layer to it where it's not just him trying to keep the balance. I think he's really been trying to keep as many pieces on the chessboard for them as possible for when the war actually happens, because the more people we lose over here, all this unnecessary fighting y'all doing, it's just helping them in the long run. Emu is extremely strong. You go to sea right now, try to fight him and throw your life away. When we're actually ready, we're cooked. And I think that also plays really heavily into why he was trying to stop Ace. Whitebeard, you know, and I think Whitebeard probably had access to this information, but he also couldn't tell these people that for whatever reason, and didn't want to just say, Ace, you gotta chill out, but I can't tell you why, because Ace wasn't gonna listen to that. So Shanks wanted to keep these people around because he wanted to make sure that we're strong as possible when it's time to actually go to to war with the world government. This kind of shifts the perspective on why he's keeping the balance, or if you even want to look at it as balance at this point. I think it's more so stockpiling strength. That's a lot more passive compared to him actually actively getting ready for war. I think I really prefer that. And that also could explain why Yasopp was a deadbeat. Maybe he knows there is much more stuff at stake than this stupid, ugly kid. Now let me stop. Usopp had a little moment in this chapter too. That was really me. My bad, bro. He had his moment in this chapter, and I really hope that we're gonna get a lot more from him, because a lot of people thought this was gonna be Usopp arc, and it can't just be that, obviously. So we're gonna get there when we get there. Shanks knows who the real problem is. He knows firsthand the horrors of his strength, and he knows that the side of the good people will need as many bodies as possible, so we can't keep fighting amongst ourselves. And someone like Blackbeard, who's more interested in just throwing the world into chaos, is the exact opposite of what he wants to do, because the worse we are down here, the better it is for them. I can make so many real life inferences from that, but I won't do it in this video. Like I said, solo videos will be on the way sooner or later for both of them, because I already had a Gaban video on the way anyway, and his anime episode plus this, I have to do it now. I really have to do it. Anyway, if you made it this far, I appreciate you. Please like the video. I didn't want to throw the fact that I've qualified for monetization early on in the video, but I have. So if anybody would like to do a little super chat in the comments and show a little love, hey, I'm not gonna turn it down. I still ain't made it to ad revenue. That's when you get to 1,000 subs. So, you know, like and subscribe. But, you know, we on the way up, and I'm really happy. This has been a dream of mine to be a YouTuber since I was a child. And I've tried a bunch of different routes, and it's finally starting to click for me. So I'm really grateful for all the love and support in the comments. Even if you calling me a clown for my thought process, I don't like that. I'm not gonna lie and say I like it, but I appreciate it because the comments still help. So don't do that, but do it if you have to. Anyway, peace out. Love y'all. It was fun.